This conference will now be recorded.
The Town of Cottage Grove Planning Commission will hold a public meeting on Wednesday, November 22nd, 2022 at 7 p.m. at the Town Hall at 4058 County Road N. You can also join the meeting by GoToMeeting. The meeting was posted at the Town Hall and on the website. I'll call the meeting to order, and we have approval of 2 sets of minutes.
Motion to approve the minutes as presented.
Both?
Both, yes.
Motion by Klinger, second by Myler to approve the minutes for October 16th and October 25th as printed in your packet. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Abstentions, motion carried. Next item is public concerns. Public's opportunity to speak to the Planning Commission about any subject that is not a specific agenda item. Anyone online?
I think they're all for the Schlickow.
Okay, moving on then. Jeff,
Schlickow. It's a hard one, a lot of volleys.
petitioner and property owner of parcel 0711-193-8430-0 on Gala Way, proposing to use 2 transferred RDUs to create 2 residential lots, RR1 and RR4, and 1 NRC lot. You have the floor.
You can come up there.
I don't know if you remember me from last time, a year ago. It's been a battle, if you will, to try to come up with solutions to play within the rules. So
Yeah.
historically, it was purchased with the intent of building a house on the top of the hill. I perked it to make sure before I bought the land, and then perked the lower half with the intent of selling off a 2-acre lot on the bottom, which is on the corner of Gala and the so thank you. And when I got into it, we had the Madison IGA, which clause in there saying that you can't split it into more than 3 and they have to be contiguous lots. So the challenge on the shape of it was you can't really build it and leave a 50-foot plus leeway to connect the parcels so that I could get a nice little 2-acre on the hill and a 2-acre down in the corner and leave the rest in ag. So I went through situations such as petitioning the neighbor to see if we could trade some land, that I could widen that area in there, make it a little more shapely, would make sense. Went to the city and Dane County, asked them if I could donate the land for a future park to shorten it up. Neither of which was palatable by either the previous owner on the hill or Dane County. So my last resort is to attempt to see if we can get an override to make that 4 acres so that I can preserve where the house is on the hill and keep my septic perk where it's at, where the house was going to be designed. And then unfortunately make the rest residential down to meet up with that first residential 2-acre lot so that it's 2 contiguous parcels.
Mm-hmm.
And then the rest ag and keep that farmland. So I guess I'm asking if you guys can override the 2-acre limit to do that for 4 due to the unshapeliness of that property.
Have you had your conversation with the city of Madison on it? Are they?
I did, and they kicked it back to you guys.
Right.
And said if it's not our decision, but if you guys approve it, they're fine with it.
Okay, that's kind of what I was getting at. If we approve it, are they going to be okay with it?
Yeah, I nothing for sure, but when the email that I had, and I got somewhere documented, they said, not our decision, but it would work if the town approves it.
Okay. Yeah, it's a very odd shaped parcel that we were left with and have dealt with numerous times. Boy, oh boy.
If we had a nickel, right?
I see Robert online. He's probably listening.
Yeah.
He was part of this, and I was with him with that.
Yeah.
The extension of the 8 properties.
This is Robert Williamson. I am here.
Hi, Robert.
Okay,
Hello. I'll go back off.
Yeah, so there, you're right, there's a history here, and
so you'd have the 2-acre lot right on the corner of Gala Way and Violet's Hope.
Yeah.
And then your 4-acre is to the south of that.
just,
And you'd put the house on the top of the hill?
yes. Again, the southern, probably the southernmost part of the property where it was perked. And then the intent was to just have that as field land. And then Bill Johnson has a segment of farmland there currently. And I did talk to the farmer a little bit about potentially what would happen. And I think there's enough room to continue that strip where Bill Johnson is. And then in the middle where really it would be the 2 acres that I'd have that would be continue to be farmed. He's had soybeans on there the last couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
And then the back parcel of ag would still be farmed as well.
And you'd rezone those to
Why
NRC.
did you pick NRC then?
I had to because the county said it had to go into that. Dane County picked up on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's an email on that I can pull up if you guys want me to forward it. There really wasn't a specific reason. It was,
Well, in our agreement with Madison, it says, in this situation, the 2 residential lots will be clustered contiguous to each other, and the remaining acreage for parcel shall be deed restricted for the benefit of Madison to preclude future development on the remaining acreage for parcels in the town. I'm wondering if that's where they
Misconstrued,
got to the NRC.
yeah. Instead of being just deed restricted, leave it as farm.
Yeah. Instead of FP,
It's an FP1, but
yeah.
I would hate to be a property owner, well, to be a new property owner area that would buy a chunk of property and look, had done my research and noticed that the land behind me was natural resource land, possibly not developable. And then later on, and Madison comes along and says, well, yeah, we're gonna add some houses in there and they develop. Which would be better off to say something like farm preservation, deed restricted.
Yeah.
so here's the text or the quote from her. This is from Alexandra Andros at the time. It says, because the land is now in the agricultural transition future land use district of the town plan, per DAT CP rules, it cannot go into farmland preservation zoning district. Instead, the outlot should be rezoned natural resource conservancy.
Okay.
Well, that's farmland preservation, doesn't have anything to do with just farmland.
We're transitioning.
no, but because it's in that
It's in that
Madison
transition.
preservation area, there's no farmland preservation anymore, is what that says, I think.
But farmland preservation is mainly for the tax credit.
Right, and that's the point, is now that it sounds like what she's saying is now that it's in this transition area, they can't create more farmland preservation.
But he doesn't want farmland preservation, doesn't need it. He's never
Right.
intended for claim a credit on some number of acres.
Yeah, it's it could be rental for me.
Yeah.
For a crop, but
So it's gonna go to the natural resource.
NRC would be okay, I guess.
I honestly don't know the difference. I didn't look that
There's
up.
FP 35 and
FP1 is a small lot ag
why
stuff,
wouldn't it be FP1?
because you can't have farmland preservation. Apparently, that cap says you can't have farmland preservation, according to Alex.
Well, what's the difference if it's farmland preservation with a deed restriction versus NRC?
I don't know, we'll have to get more clarification on that, but
It's the FP is for farmland preservation.
I understand.
Okay,
but
so is there any reason he can't farm it under NRC?
No.
No, he can still be farmed.
Okay,
Permitted use of undeveloped natural resource and open space areas, hiking, fishing, trapping, hunting, swimming, boating, outdoor passive recreation, propagation and raising of game animals, fowl, fish,
but it's
planting,
farm.
thinning, and harvesting of timber, harvesting of wild crops in a manner that is not pasture, grazing of livestock, soil conservation, non-residential buildings or structures accessory to any permitted permitted uses, invasive species control.
So you could raise deer, put up a shed for the deer,
Or fence.
Or both.
Fence
You said structures.
Yeah.
Conservancy type things.
Grow pheasants.
It doesn't say farm and agriculture though, does it?
No,
No,
it doesn't.
that's got me going.
Well,
Unless he wants to grow wild crops.
yeah.
You can pasture it.
Yeah,
So it's the difference between pasturing and growing domestic crops.
Yeah.
well, I
What are they
think
gonna
we
do to
should,
you?
So who's the
Start
county
running
was
it.
the one that wanted it NRC?
I think it's the
Yeah.
rule, yeah, the county was the one that said, because I had classified it originally as farmland. They said, you can't do it, you gotta do it.
can you forward that email to
Yeah.
me?
I think it'd be worth asking the question because
Mhm.
there have been crops grown on there before, right?
Well, absolutely, yeah. It's been crops. Robert, it's been crops since you've had it, and
What do you show the current zoning of that parcel being? Is it FP1?
yeah,
That's a good question.
because it came before the IGA.
Right, I think that's what's happening here.
Yeah.
Is that any changes in zoning now that IGA is in place are not going to be able to be farmland preservation because the whole area is, the idea of preserving farmland is out the window.
Yeah.
Correct. I agree with you, Kim. However, why the heck are you doing it NRC?
But I don't know what the other.
Because I mean, you could do a whole bunch of ag stuff on that chunk of land there now. according to what
Maybe that's the
Chris
only,
left.
yeah, it's current, the whole thing is now FP1. So
And I forget, Troy, you asked or Dave, you said, what if you did farm it? Was there be a penalty?
Yeah, right. I asked.
I don't know what that answer would be. My opinion, it really wouldn't change. Nothing's changing on the land.
Yeah.
So it's just a classification of the,
Or does he need to get an opinion from the county zoning that the growing crops would be?
how many acres is it?
I think it's about 10,
Well,
yeah.
So why wouldn't, I'm wondering if it could be this agricultural transition zoning district.
Like the
Well,
18
Madison's gonna want it deed restricted for
Yeah.
further development, and so would we.
Right, but you could I mean, that single family residence is a permitted use on AT5. But you could still deed restricted against that, but,
I would think if it's currently FP1, we leave it FP1 and deed restricting the remaining 10.78 acres or whatever it is that's left.
I don't think you can create anything that's farmland preservation and doesn't apply to that area anymore because of it being on Madison expansion area.
That's what I heard too, is the rules of the zoning changed.
So I don't think anything can be farmland preservation there, anything changed to, obviously there is other farmland preservation land in that district, in the expansion zone, but I think that we must not be able to change it to that.
Okay.
But I think we should ask for some clarification on that, what
Yeah.
that lot really should be. I'm just looking at what all the other possibilities are, and I mean, the only one I see is ag transition, but that doesn't really seem to fit either.
No.
Because it's what, less than 35 acres?
Well, no, there is a AT5,
Oh, there you go.
but this is for zoning district for parcels zoned A1 agriculture prior to 2019, which those were small ag lots.
Yep.
And so it's a small ag lot that's not in an area that qualifies for farmland preservation. So I would think that that would make more sense, but maybe I think we should just ask the county
Yeah.
why they went that way.
Excuse me, this is Robert Williamson. I just
Yes,
wanted to say,
Robert.
when Jeff bought the land, it was all deed restricted. So he could get the two RUDs to put on there, but the land was already deed restricted to not be able to build.
Yeah.
So we shouldn't have to change any zoning on
Well,
that
you-
10 acres.
You're gonna create all new lots though, so there'll need to be new deed restrictions applied to
Yeah.
go
Okay,
with,
I'm not
No.
sure.
With the new CSMs.
yeah.
Yeah.
So one other question is, you don't have any setback, because I'm assuming your building area is on that narrow part of that lot.
It is, and I've got enough room for the setbacks. I've measured that all
That's
out.
not
in the
gonna
house
screw you up
plan.
or anything.
Yeah, good question.
It's in the narrow area. It's like-
Yeah.
Just widens out enough where I need it to widen. So, yes. It's pretty tight.
And you're building on 4-acre parcels?
Yes.
The south part.
4.12 acres.
Is there any reason why you, and I haven't looked at it.
Yeah.
Any reason why you didn't make the FP or the RR1? Didn't make that from 2 acres and go to 2.5 or anything?
I didn't want to ask for forgiveness for two. I wanted to play in the rules with
Okay.
one.
'Cause we
I
have
certainly
2
would have been
acre
open to that, but
Okay.
The bigger you can make that turnaround area for farming, if you just keep that active. Are you gonna farm on that north part of your lot?
yeah, the intent is, yes.
So the bigger you can make that, the better. So I agree with the 2 acres for the north part of the lot.
Yeah, because it also then transitioned into Bill Johnson's chunk, which is on the
East.
east side of that, yeah.
Okay.
You haven't applied at the county yet, so
I have not applied to the county.
when you apply at the county, that'll be the time to make sure that they still say it has to be NRC.
Yeah.
But we can make a motion that it would be
Acceptable one way
under
or the
either
other.
AT5 or NRC.
Whatever the county,
FP1.
or whatever the county will
Yeah.
say, as long as it's not, as long as it's deed restricted against building.
It already
And
is, yeah.
So another question. The attorney that drafted the letter, I'm assuming it was an attorney,
Which letter?
your letter to purchase the development.
the Contract.
Oh, the contract, no, that was mine. I borrowed a template from a previous seller and then modified it myself and then ran it by the other.
Okay, we'll
farmer.
have you modify it a lot more.
Will be more? Okay,
There,
okay.
if you would, please.
Yeah, I can. Be happy to do it. Both are pretty similar. The difference in the two, I think, is one is a 10-day after acceptance and one is a 30.
Yeah. We don't have A1 exclusive anymore, the FP 35.
Everywhere it says
A1.
currently is A1 exclusive agricultural zoning, that would all be.
Oh. I probably didn't catch that. It was a copy and paste in there.
So three places on each one has that.
Okay,
Then you have, whereas it talks about the A1 modifier. You have that. You would want that recorded at the county and register of deeds and think that somebody
Yeah.
would have.
you know, I kind of overlooked the RDU contract because I thought it was more of a private transaction of dollars with rights, but it probably is important to have it tied to what it's meant to be.
1-to-1, yeah, that's, we changed that in the plan how many years ago?
Yeah. And that table J6,
Get rid of it.
yeah, it's not there.
Do you guys have a more modern
You're
template?
right that this really is more between you and the buyer and the seller. And this isn't something that we normally would draft. So I don't know where you got this one from before, but definitely we want to make sure that it's correct,
Yeah.
modern. And so like he said, like they said, the FP 35 thing, and then in that paragraph about the whereas paragraph about the transfer ratio, I would just strike everything that relates to the transfer ratio. I noticed that in the Wallene contract, that whereas is basically trying to say that the receiving property will have residential value if it receives our development rights, is what you're basically trying to say there. But in one of them, you say that the receiving area property, provided it attains appropriate zoning, appropriate land division, and 2 development rights, has significant substantial value for residential development. And the other one, you say One.
It should be one.
So either one or two. You do need two
Yeah,
to
the
do
reason,
what you want to do.
I
but-
know why
always
that's a
refer to it
mistake
as
too,
one.
because I was gonna try to get two from the same person.
Okay,
And that's why it was in there.
so
that's
that should be one. And then I would strike everything between development rights and has significant
that.
substantial value. Strike all that. And then the other thing is on the paragraph about the date of closing, there's no final plat, that would be the CSM. If you're gonna close 10 days after the town approves the CSM, not that there's no final plat. So this must have come from a subdivision,
It probably did.
yeah,
'Cause
Yeah. Right, Vinnie's.
maybe.
Might have got that from
Yeah.
Vinnie.
Yeah, that was probably in the time frame that we still had one exclusive.
Yeah.
It was interesting trying to find a lawyer that knew what this was. Already feeling in the concept of it. I'm like, well, try to explain it. I might come back to you, Kim, and recap what you said here. Got most of the
Well,
notes.
I'll scan you my marked up copy, how would that be?
That would be awesome.
Send it won't be till Monday, but
Then I can have them re-sign it.
Questions? Actions?
I'll move approval for the rezone of the 2 lots.
The 2 acre and the 4.12, and the reason for the 4.12 is because
want
of
me to
the
say
odd
it?
size of the parcel.
Yeah, because of the size and conditions of, we don't want to say the intergovernmental agreement, but just the size and configuration of the parcel.
the unshapely, the unusual shape.
Yeah,
And
something like that. That's why we're going over the 2 acres.
correct. Yep. And
So because of the unusual shape of the
and topography.
parcel and to stay within the contiguous requirements of the.
That's what I was
IGA.
referring, yeah, that's what I was referring to. And topography for septic purposes.
And you're approving the RR1 for the 2 acre and the RR4 for the 4.12 acre and either NRC or
AT5,
FP1.
what about AT5? Or is 5 or less acres? Oh, I have to look for it.
AT is
AT,
85
AT5.
and it's,
Because that is 10.
I know it's 10 acres that we have to deal with.
that's size of-
You get a size limitation in this code? But it was greater than 5 acres. Yeah.
Maximum, oh, yeah, it's not, maximum lot area is none for AT5.
It is a transition area, so it makes sense for the title.
I know, that's why I thought maybe that would be whatever.
Going to the IGA.
That's generally what other land that's in areas that doesn't qualify
For
for
farmland
farmland
preservation.
preservation is if it's still
AT5.
AT, the ag transition, is usually ag use, but not qualifying for farmland preservation.
And then you're going to deed restrict the
10 acres, 10.12, whatever it is. It's already under a deed restriction.
Yeah.
Continue the deed restriction.
right.
And You want to put in there about getting the revised letters of intent or
Purchase.
what do you call those? Transfer and development rights agreements? Yeah.
Okay.
Get those updated.
That it?
That's makes sense to you guys?
That it?
As I know, anything else?
Motion was by Mule. Is there a second? Second by Myler. And hopefully I don't have to repeat all that. Everybody,
No, I
understand?
don't have to.
Everyone understand?
Quick question on if that's all deed restricted, or if they looked into deed restrictions?
On the two parcels of the residential.
Right, because you said all the land was.
Well, there's the process of transferring a development right transfers it there, and so that would
Lift the
that
deed
would
restriction.
supersede basically a deed restriction.
Okay.
Yeah, there's documents recorded against those parcels to conserve one and allow building on the other.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any other discussion on the motion?
Can I mention something?
Hearing none, all those in favor?
Hello?
signify by- Yes,
Some other of the property that we sold is G4, G5, and G5M. And that is just south of Jeff's NRC there. So I don't know why those are, why it can't be the same.
That's not the zoning.
that's not a zoning category.
That's probably the category on the tax. If you look on Access Dane, that's how they classify it for assessment.
Okay,
That's not a zoning category.
okay, it's FP1 though. So, okay, just thought I'd say it. Trying to be helpful, that's all.
Okay. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. The board will take it up on December 4th, 7 o'clock.
Anything else you need from me besides the change in the contracts?
Patience.
He's got it.
I've got them. I've got lots of practice. Thanks.
Okay. Well, that should be it.
All right, thank you, guys. Yes.
Next item is discuss and consider recommendations for combining CUP and design review steps. And if we read through all the emails between the county and everyone, you can see what the problem is. The county's requiring some of that information that we get at design review, and they want it earlier. So do we do the CUP and design review at the same time so that all get the same information at one point?
This has been, this one in the email that I sent you has been a real challenge for the county, and really it was here too. The applicants are, first of all, they're not local. I was starting to get very confused because if you remember that we had that Amy Miles here was the one that first came, and then there was a whole, and she was from PB2, so that's an engineering firm.
Yeah.
And then there was a bunch of them here at the last appearance from
The equipment company.
well, not their equipment company, but then another
You guys.
another engineering firm. There's two engineering firms involved. And so actually one of them called me this morning trying to figure out how they apply for building permits. And I mean, I had been telling the one place, you got to do design review. As soon as you get done with the CP, the next thing will be design review. And I sent them links to everything multiple times. And then she came back and said, you know, how do I get a building permit? And I'm like, I don't understand, you know, who's doing what here. Well, then I found out that they had one engineering firm doing their civil engineering, which was doing all the zoning and CUP stuff, and then they have another engineering firm that's getting all the building permits and everything. And they're not really jiving, and so the county has been fighting the same battle, trying to get the information that they need, and, you know, they got two different entities that are, they're not thinking in terms of everything at the same time either, and it's just been a really confusing one, but it has brought this to light that, you know, and I think we should give the county some credit. They're trying to make sure that the CUP, that the lighting is good and, you know, doesn't affect neighbors and stuff, and we've kind of said we do that later. And we're gonna make you have the right lighting, but the county said, we wanna know that you have the right lighting before we approve the CUP. So I
So
get
is
what,
this gonna be for every CUP going forward?
well, so that's the question is, should it be to make sure that here we think harder about the things like that before we say yes to a CUP and not come back later and when the CUP is approved and then start saying, oh, but you need, you know, because then the lighting will be solid in the CUP, for example, if you use lighting, for example, versus just being something that we approve. It'll be a condition of the CUP versus just being something that we looked at later at design review. So.
Or we reacting to a situation that we're wagging the dog instead of the tail in most other situations.
Well, like what I said, I mean, the other side of it that I said to the county is sometimes the applicants aren't going to want to put the effort into everything that goes in a design review until they know they have their conditional use permit. But so I mean, there's that too, but yet the county is saying, you know, we don't want to approve a conditional use permit if we don't know certain things. And then those are things that you don't look at till later. And so we're just trying to figure out how we can make this smoother. Yeah. And I mean, part of it is just maybe here, we need to be doing a bet, like at that CUP, we really didn't talk about, you know, what kind of lights are you going to have? What kind of, well, we talked about all the standards, but we didn't talk about things like that. Like, you know,
Right.
with those standards, if we would be more diligent about looking at that list and design review and some of those are items and how they apply to those standards, maybe that would have taken care of some of this.
What happens if there's a disagreement in interpretation?
What do you mean?
Well, if we say lighting XYZ is going to be satisfactory, the county says, we don't like that.
Yeah, are we giving them more of a kick at the can than they have had in the past?
No, because generally we all only say is that the lighting has to be dark sky compliant.
Yeah.
And as
So-
long as it meets that requirement,
At the county, all their condition is that they have to be meeting the design review requirements of the town. So they're not trying to put any different requirements on, but like I said, the problem is we don't look at it till after the fact, and they want to see some of that stuff earlier. So,
before they approve the CUP.
yeah,
So the larger picture, like for the example, your lighting might be the light positions, the light height. all
because
of that.
I think that what they have is like, what they're showing the county is like 38-foot light poles. And they're like, that's not, the town's not gonna like that. Well, no, we're
No.
not. And if we had seen that already, we would have already told them that.
Yeah.
You know, so they're trying to make sure that they don't approve something that is not gonna be acceptable to us, I guess, because you don't want something in the CUP and then you're screwed because it's in the CUP and you find out later that it doesn't meet your design codes.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't have a problem in making them do that. If they want their project bad enough, they'll do whatever reasonably it takes, right?
Do them both at the same
I
time.
mean, I think there's different ways, or, you know, you can take your first look at their CUP and say, well, geez, we really would like to know what your lighting and your landscaping and stuff is gonna be, and then table it and make them come back with that much, but then you're gonna be delaying them.
Well, if the county's going to delay them, then if we don't delay them,
Yeah, in fact, I think they might get delayed next week. I think that, they're at the county next week, and I'm not sure the county is you know.
Happy with what they've given them so far.
Yeah, but it's been pulling teeth. It really has. I've seen the whole process and it's been pulling teeth.
I guess I'd be okay doing both at the same time.
But for the other the other projects we've looked at, it hasn't been a problem, has it?
No, right? It hasn't, has it? But this is the one a little bit larger.
No, but I think we might have a lot of them down there like this. And
Yeah.
so this is the time to try to figure out so we don't stumble around like this on every one of those 10 lots down there when they all come in and want a conditional use permit for something, you know.
Outdoor storage
At
or
least
whatever.
just, even if it just means we're more aware of that and when we look at the CUPs, we're thinking about the checklist for design review too. And, you know, maybe we don't have to require the whole thing, but at least that we're trying to make sure that the parts of design review that affect the standards for a CUP are being looked at.
And it would save them a trip coming back to us.
Yeah, that's right. If they're ready that fast.
Yeah. They get all their ducks in a row.
Not all of them are though.
I mean, there's some things in here that even go back to when Dewey was doing, or Dwayne was doing his stuff. For instance, that road, it references the road here, not having it in place and what that's gonna look like. So, you know, the lot got sold. It just, things happened before they should have.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
So that's just, that would have helped, you know, as far as, and I don't know how that looks to say no to somebody that's doing the development, say, you wait till you get your full plan done, then you come to us, then you go to town, then you can do what you want.
That's what we wanted him to do, but
Got the cart before the horse.
Yeah, we'll get,
So do we want to require the design review at the same time we do the CUP?
Did I, in that, all that stuff that I sent you was Mark Roffer's email in part of
In
that
there,
too?
I believe
think he
so.
had
Yeah.
some
Yeah.
options to think about.
Oh, that on the back page? Would it be wrong to ask Mark to come in and review some of the stuff with us, or do we want to just do it ourselves?
I guess I would look, if you want his presence, we need to hear that from you.
Okay.
I'm not opposed to inviting him, but if the group doesn't want him, I won't pay his bill.
That would be charged back to the developer usually.
Yeah.
So, did you say to have him come when we review CUPs? Is that what you said? Or
Well, that would be a good idea. If the
or
developer's
did you
gonna
just
pay
mean
for
to
it.
come in and talk about this question?
Well, there was two parts, possibly have him come in after we come up with something, maybe we can just have him review it, say, yeah, or you guys should add these additional steps in there. If you're gonna go with your having design review at the time, do it all in one time.
Because it'll have to be a change to the ordinance. You know, right now the ordinance says when design review happens, and it says basically when a building permit is applied for is when we do it. So we would have to change the ordinance.
Change that to when the CUP is.
When a building permit or a conditional use permit. Because you're still gonna do it for other cases where there's no
No
CUP, it would be
CUP.
triggered by the building permit. But
Yeah,
when there's a conditional use permit, you might want to trigger it for that.
I can see both sides of the viewpoint here.
Me too.
Because a lot of times you don't know what the building's gonna even look like until you get the CUP approved. Other times, as soon as they get the building permit, or when they apply for the building permit, they want to get going. So if that can be approved ahead of time, that would help everybody involved. That's the double-edged sword.
Mhm.
What's your preference?
Do both at the same time.
Is that a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Anders. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Who did?
I'll second.
Troy was the second to combine the CUP and design review step.
Does the village get to make it elected? They don't have to, but if they want to, they can.
No,
No,
because
because the county's going to require information
Have
that
they,
we haven't looked at.
have they in the past?
Yeah, but I think it just came to light so much more with this
Because
one
of-
because of how hard of a time they've
This is the
been.
exacerbating situation with this whole thing. So that's why I'm talking about, we talk about tail wagging the dog.
Well, I guess I'm concerned that there's gonna be a lot of situations like this in those 10 lots. You know, I think a lot of them are gonna be similar.
And true, how many times has the county modified a CUP that we've already approved or sent something back? I mean, it's either they approve it or they don't,
Right.
and it's not modifying it. So it's either approved as is or totally
And
don't.
that's kind of what Rachel's struggling with on this one, because they haven't answered a lot of the questions that she feels like the county should know to say that the CUP is not gonna violate any of those standards for approval. But they don't want to recommend that they deny it either, because the town approved it, and then the town's gonna get mad and say, well, we approved it, why did you deny it? So that she's trying to work that middle ground and.
This is why we have questions. X,
Yeah.
Y, and Z.
Yeah,
Yeah, and I think too is if you see bigger companies that aren't from here
yeah,
that are looking at buying that property, that's where that conflict comes into more often than with someone that's local, where they have different engineers from different companies doing different things for.
yeah.
This might have been, maybe it was Majid was asking, or saying, are you guys still want to have this cup? Maybe not just get rid of the cup and just have the outdoor storage? It was,
Oh, that goes back to the heavy versus general commercial.
when he was talking, this is a decent of an example of like, okay, you get your cup approved and then you go back to your design.
No, I like having that couple, like with the last one, we got
I agree.
in there that everything is stored in transport mode.
Right.
So you don't have some
Right.
40-foot.
Like up here on the freeway.
Yeah.
No, I totally understand where you're coming from, but I think that's what he was warning about.
Yeah.
Is like, this may be something that you run into, so how are we gonna deal with it? We're dealing with it now.
Well, and, in design review, you guys you aren't really looking at like detailed building plans. You're looking for what's the material gonna be, what is it gonna look like, what's the landscaping gonna be, what's the lighting gonna be. You're not looking that they have to have their whole building design
No.
like it needs to be for state review or anything. You're just looking at the aesthetics and the
Yeah.
screening and things like that. So I don't think it's asking for as much as it maybe seems like.
Yeah. So we don't care where their overhead door is or their walk-in door, or how many windows they have.
Yeah.
Or cubulars. Hey, you can always ask.
Pretty much want to know where the buildings are going to be, what are they going to generally look like, how's,
What kind of pavement are they gonna have? And
yeah. So I think that it will take an ordinance change, and so now the two things will trigger design review, either a building permit application or a
CUP.
conditional use permit application.
Was Coparts a problem? Is it anything? Because they did the CUP and then the design review later, right?
Yeah. Well, do they have a CUP? They're heavy commercial, aren't they?
Yeah.
They don't have a CUP, I don't think.
What do we have to change on there? So they had to come back and ask for the
Fencing.
level.
They came back with design review a second time because they changed their design after the road.
The road deviation.
Road was going in.
So I think it was design review
Yeah.
the second time for them.
Any other discussion on that motion?
Say, you know, so it's-
Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion by Klinger, is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Troy. All in favor signify by saying aye. Motion carried. Have a good Thanksgiving, everyone.